Upstairs at Froelich, show 206, reel 1.
You can squeeze my tits now if you want to.
So before we do the topic of discussion, I'd like to propose a question to you, sir.
Yes,
What is your favorite Adam Sandler comedy?
My favorite Adam Sandler comedy, okay.
Let's say your favorite and then one that you think is underrated.
Adam Sandler. Okay, I did enjoy, fuck me, before he even became famous, one of my favorite movies that he did was Airheads. Love that movie.
Yes, great movie.
I love that movie. Airheads is a funny fucking movie. It's filled with a lot of raw talent, energy, and a nice little quick cameo appearance from Harold Ramis. So that was Adam Sandler, Brendan Fraser, and Steve Buscemi, right?
Correct.
In that movie, playing that rock and roll band, which is wonderful.
The Lone
Rangers. How do you pluralize Lone Rangers?
So there's three of you. You're not exactly lone. Shouldn't you be the Three Rangers?
Yeah. Okay, and then there was I enjoyed Happy Gilmore. That's a really funny one, and I really enjoyed The Wedding Singer. Love that movie too. That's probably my wife's favorite of that. And he had the Hanukkah song, remember? And then he did 8 Crazy Nights, which I really liked too. I like that movie too. These are all very early on, though. I don't really like any of the stuff he's done recently. I did, like we talked about in the Best of show, I did enjoy Punch Drunk Love, but that could have been anybody playing that part.
Yeah, anybody could have played that.
There was nothing. Yeah, there was nothing. There was nothing special or singular about Adam Sandler being in the movie, and he did that one about the one where he played the Israeli hairdresser was kind of funny too.
Zohan.
Yes.
I actually in preparation for this episode, I started watching a couple of Adam Sandler movies, other than the one we're going to be talking about. I had to remember why I like this man in the first place.
Well, let me ask you the same question. Of those movies I mentioned and everything in his career, what's the stuff that you really liked of his?
Well, I'm going to say probably my favorite Adam Sandler comedy is definitely this one's like so far under the radar. I love Little Nicky.
My mother had a copy of that. It's so funny.
Yeah, a lot of you see the funny thing is
that
about
Harvey
Little
Keitel.
Nicky,
Harvey Keitel's in that, right?
Yes, Harvey Keitel, Rodney Dangerfield, Rhys Ifans, freaking Tiny Lister. The list goes on. Patricia Arquette, Quentin Tarantino in a cameo.
Yeah.
The list goes on. The thing was, I remember when.
You know what? Actually, what was that one with Winona Ryder?
Oh, Mr. Deeds.
Mr. Deeds. That was kind of funny too. It was cute.
See, Adam Sandler for me, like the Adam Sandler of the '90s, that was like Little Nicky was like the best movie he did at the time, but yet it was his first flop. I remember that. Like the movie really didn't make a lot of money, even though ironically at the time it was his best reviewed comedy that he'd done in a while, because like he had done like Happy Gilmore, Billy Madison, he just did Big Daddy, Bulletproof, and then he did Little Nicky.
Boy, he did a lot of movies, didn't he? I mean, it's such a short space of time because he took what he made and turned it into a production company under the Sony Columbia Pictures umbrella.
Now, I will say his most underrated movie, and this is a kind of a recent one, like within the last 8 or 9 years. Okay, none of the Netflix shit because I don't even care about any of that.
He made what was that movie? It was like a
he did The Ridiculous
right.
Six.
It was like The Hateful Eight, but it was called The Ridiculous Six.
Yeah, and my buddy made me watch that. While I didn't hate it, I'm not, dude. It's very hard for me to say I hate a movie to death, but I did not hate this. But at the same time, did I think it was a great Adam Sandler movie? No. Did I get a chuckle? A couple of times.
Yeah, it's kind of like, these days you're watching one of these Adam Sandler in big letters comedies. You're not really laughing anymore. You're just kind of going, huh.
And I honestly think the last really good movie he did, it's underrated because a lot of people don't like it. I think That's My Boy is one of the last really good movies that he did because Adam Sandler didn't do a lot of R-rated comedy. Like he was always, he played it safe. He did PG-13, that kind of stuff. He wanted everyone to go see his movies. And then with That's My Boy, he tried reinventing his image because Jack and Jill had come out prior. He was getting the worst reviews of his life. He said, you know what? I want to try something different. And I watched that movie in 2013. I thought it was going to be a train wreck, and I laughed my ass off. I thought it was one of the best movies he had done in a long time.
Now,
a lot of people didn't like the subject matter. They did not like what the subject matter of the movie was about.
Well, there was
they were wholly offended by it.
Red Letter Media, the guys at Red Letter Media, Mike and Jay, did a review of Jack and Jill, which is extremely revelatory because it was something I had never considered before. They did a review of Jack and Jill, and it's a 2-part review. And in the second part of the review, the first part of the review, they reveal they talk about how bad the movie is. And to me, it is kind of almost completely unwatchable. And it's kind of a shame, too, because Dennis Dugan directed it. Dennis Dugan's worked with Adam Sandler a couple of times. And he was the guy who, from The Howling, he became a director.
Yeah, exactly.
He's the guy who is like the friend of Dee and Christopher Stone, and basically kills her at the end in front of live television. Like the the news lady's turning into a werewolf and she got shot, it's like, but they outline this whole thing where they called this the great comedy swindle or something. And I'll put a clip in just for clarification, just so you know what they're talking about.
This whole movie, like, there's no reason this should be $79 million. This is just a cheap looking movie.
Yes.
But every minor character is played by one of Adam Sandler's friends.
Yeah, so this is what you're saying, Jay. You're saying that Adam Sandler says, hi, I'm Adam Sandler. I have lots of pull. I have lots of box office hits, not necessarily in the critical definition of hit, but in the financial definition of hit. I can make some phone calls. We'll put together this really cheaply made product called Jack and Jill.
Yeah.
I can raise this budget for it, X amount of dollars, and I'm going to call up all of my old friends and give them horribly inflated paychecks to be in it, and at the same time get giant checks from big name advertisers to also give us money. We'll cash all these paychecks and we'll release this bomb into the theaters, and who gives a shit what the critics say? I hesitate to use the word scam, but the movie is a scam. And I kind of sat there and I went, wow, this isn't a movie.
Yeah.
This is a scam. And it's interesting to see a piece of entertainment that's a front. It's like the Italian restaurant that the mob uses as a front and they're cutting cocaine in the back.
Yeah.
And there's trucks pulling up with guns and stuff. And it's like realizing that Italian restaurant isn't there to cook you a meal.
And after this clip, you can see that they talk about what could be considered a form of corruption on Sandler's part, in that he gets these enormous budgets for these movies that don't look like they cost that much money. And I talked about this before with The Irishman. I mean, you look at The Irishman and you're trying to figure out just how they spent the $150 million to make this movie. Jack and Jill had a budget of like, what, 70 million or something? 70?
Probably something. At least 50. At least 50.
I think it might have been like $80 million, and $20 million of that probably goes right into Adam Sandler's pocket before they even.
And then
start.
you can't forget about Pacino too. I mean, they had to pay Pacino.
Dunkachino, hey, say hello to my chocolate blend.
That was that, dude. I can't talk about that movie without fucking cringing. I hate that movie so much.
Yes, I know. He wanted to play Twister with your sister.
That right there is an example. It's like I said, it's hard for me to hate a movie. That movie wasn't hard for me to hate. That movie was very easy. That was one of the few times when it's like, you know what, this movie can't be that bad. I'm like, yeah, it was that fucking bad.
It was.
There was not a single redeeming factor to that movie. It was trash.
And then you compound the problem with a movie like Pixels, and this is one of the downfalls of Columbia Pictures. This is something you can expect from a movie that they make now, is that they put all this product placement into their movies. I mean, even a movie like Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, it has an enormous amount of product placement, but the products are consistent, at least with the time in which they're being shot. It has a Demolition Man quality to it, where you're talking a lot about Taco Bell,
right?
Or in England, Pizza Hut, because apparently there's no Taco Bell in London, so they changed it to Pizza Hut for Demolition Man.
I've told you about Pixels. I don't hate that movie. I saw that movie in the theater, and I actually like it. But again, it's a biased opinion because I'm an old school gamer. I love that kind of stuff.
Even
I spent my time in arcades.
Pixels
all that stuff
rips off a Futurama episode that was made.
I know. Well, no, I completely understand. It rips off a Futurama episode, but you know what? I liked it. It made me laugh in a lot of spots. Okay. I know the movie, a lot of people think it's trash. I like it. I mean, I don't know why I like it, but I fucking like it. I know people hate it, but I like it.
I'm a little gun shy these days. I'm not going to go and see an Adam Sandler movie just out of the gate. I'm not a fan per se. I find I find some of his shtick funny. I thought he was kind of like a breath of fresh air on Saturday Night Live at a time when the old cast was moving on to different things and a new cast was coming in. Him and Mike Myers and who else? Chris Rock,
Chris Farley, Chris Rock,
David Spade. They came in, and these were like small supporting characters for a little while, and then they became major parts of the show. And they held it together for about 4 or 5 years. Probably, let me say, before the end of, I don't know, maybe at the beginning of the new millennium. And then they left.
No, because I say the one of the golden heydays was 87 to 94.
Right.
95 at the latest, because it was around 96.
87 to 94. 94 is around the time that, like, say, Phil Hartman and Dennis Miller left, right?
Right. That's when they left. And then that's when the 90s cast started coming in, because then you had Will Ferrell, Anna Gasteyer, Sherry O'Terry, Daryl Hammond, Molly Shannon.
Who's that dude? Like, who's the guy who played Mango? Chris Kattan.
Oh, Chris Kattan.
Right,
Chris Kattan, Colin Quinn. Basically, in 95, they did, like, Lorne Michaels did what he did in 87, because in 86 the show was literally having its worst ratings around that time, and it was on the verge of getting canceled. So what
that was that first cast that he brought in. That first cast, with the exception of John Lovitz and Nora Dunn and Dennis Miller, everybody was fired.
No, and Hartman.
Well, Phil Hartman came in 86.
Well, that's what I was saying. Around 86, like he fired a ton of people. Like he literally only kept, like you said, he kept Lovitz, Hartman, Nora Dunn, and Dennis Miller. And then I believe Dana Carvey 86 or 87?
He was 86. He came in with the wave 86? With Hartman.
Okay,
like, he fired people like Anthony Michael Hall and Robert Downey Jr., and Joan Cusack. These were names. They were actually names.
So he kept 5 people. And then he hires this entirely new cast in 1987. Bunch of unknowns. You've got Kevin Nealon. You've got what's her face? Freaking Victoria Jackson. Ellen Cleghorn.
Jan Hooks.
Jan Hooks. Rest in peace, Jan Hooks.
No
a lot of people forgot about her, man. A lot of people forgot about her. Just this amazing cast where they held the show together. Like all of a sudden the show's getting steam again. And then all of a sudden 91, 92 comes along. Then they get all these new fresh faces. And the show is still funny. But then 95 comes along. The shakeup happens again. He keeps like maybe 2 people. Tim Meadows being one of them. I think he had, I think it was Mike Myers he had for like 1 more year.
Yeah.
And then like he fought everyone else.
And they brought in Norm Macdonald.
They were gone. Brought in a whole new cast. Just a bunch of groundling people, a bunch of unknowns. The funny part is that was a good heyday too. Because
Janine Garofalo, you had Sarah Silverman, Chris Elliott, Harry Shearer came back again. Michael McKean was there. Yeah,
Michael McKean came back again. It was like Saturday Night Live. It was like the golden years, man. People think the golden years from 75 to 79. My generation's going to say 87 to 94. Those were like the best years. And now, I don't have too much hatred towards 96 to 2001 because, a lot of those people did some good movies. Like I said, Will Ferrell broke out, even though he's good in small doses.
Yeah. Will Ferrell, he likes to talk like this.
Yeah. he's a fucking small doses guy. But then you look at a guy like Sandler, it's like you take one person out of any SNL alumni out of those last, like from 1987 upwards, man, that's the one constant, man. He's been there since the 90s and he's still relevant.
Yeah.
You take guys like Harvey Myers, these guys who did great movies, they're not relevant anymore.
Well, yeah. But Sandler was on the verge of becoming, as far as I'm concerned, he kind of had lost his reputation before this movie came along. And
he did. He literally just said, fuck it, I'm going to do what I want to do. I got my own production company. I've got to deal with Netflix. I can throw paint at the fucking wall and I get paid. Who cares? That was his thing. Let him do what he wants to do.
And this movie just comes out of nowhere, comes out of left field, and it becomes this kind of underground, quietly. It came quietly too. That's another thing. And then it gets its release.
Uncut Gems is the movie we're talking about, by the way.
This is Uncut Gems. We talked a little bit about it on the Best Of show. This is a movie that still sticks. I'm still thinking about it, too. It's just a fantastic film, so well made. Cannot wait to have some form of it in my home media. I've been recommending it. And also, like a lot of friends, friends outside of the R circles are talking to me about it. It's like, A friend of mine's boyfriend just posts the other day, saw Uncut Gems. It's incredible. You have to see this movie. I recommended it to my friend Andrew. My friend Andrew, he had to stop it halfway through and try to watch something a little bit different. So he was like, because it was really intense. I said, this is an incredible movie. You should be prepared for it. He's like, and then he gets back to me later. He says, I'm watching it. I got to stop it right now because it's way too intense. And it's way too kind of depressing for me, too. So I'm going to watch A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood and watch that. And he did. He actually enjoyed A Beautiful, even though it's not really his wheelhouse. He had a problem. He had a couple of problems with it, but he said it was a great movie and everything. And then he got back to Uncut Gems. It's something that he can't forget either. Kind of gets stuck. It gets stuck in your head.
It does. It sticks. This movie is just a wild ass roller coaster. It's really, it never stops.
This movie is so refreshing too. In 2019, 2020, end of the year, beginning of the new one. It's so refreshing because it feels like something that was made a long time ago. It feels like something that was made by people that really kind of care about creating interesting characters. Every character in this movie is interesting, even the smallest ones. That has to
the sad fees just took they took a note out of every director's playbook and just made an amazing film. Like we were talking about the John Carpenter connection, like how the opening credits and the synthesizers are very John Carpenter-esque.
Yeah. And also, a little bit of maybe
out of it.
Like also another connection I was thinking about, Steven Soderbergh from a few years back has that definite kind of Soderbergh feel to it too.
Yeah, it has like the camera work, like a lot of the camera work, the color, the neutral colors, everything like that. I can see some Soderbergh work. Like you said, early Scorsese, because of its hyperconnect nature.
Yeah,
it's just
we're following this guy around in a kind of weird adventure, but again, it's an adventure involving a character you don't necessarily like. It's a character that you may sadly understand this character, but you don't like him. He reminds you of people that you know. He reminds you of the kind of people who just don't get it. They just don't get it. And they walk around clueless and vapid, and they're completely consumed with their own silly motivations and their kind of selfishness and their greed. These are people that seem very real because of that. I did want to bring up the Safdie brothers. They do come up in conversations with people. A lot of people have told me, I have not seen this yet. I know the Safdie brothers did it. I really liked the movie they did before that, which is called Good Time, right?
Good Time, yeah. I heard that movie was really, really good too.
Yeah, they must be these guys who are really under the radar because you don't see them popping up talking about how fucking brilliant they are. It seems like they're just working.
Yeah, and it's a crying shame too, because now with this being today, the Oscar nominations came out, and this movie got shut out completely. It got nothing. It got nothing.
That's sad. This movie is better than most of the. Well, the Oscar nominations, okay. I didn't get to have a look at them.
Yeah,
in the middle. Like I told you before, I put out 8 podcasts within 4 weeks. Within 4 weeks' time, I put out 8 podcasts. I'm fucking exhausted now. I'm fucking fried, and I'm gonna.
The only thing I'm upset for a few reasons. I wish Sandler would have at least gotten a nod. I kind of knew Eddie Murphy wasn't going to get one because he got blackballed from the Academy like 30 years ago.
Just because of Norbit, or because you told me about Norbit that time?
He made a speech in 1988 that basically said that the Academy lacked diversity, and he did it live, televised, and he basically blackballed himself from the Academy for standing up for black people.
So it doesn't matter. I mean, he could make the greatest movie in the world.
But then we look at Adam Sandler. He made a great fucking movie. What happened? He got blackballed too. I mean, because he won the National Board of Review for Uncut Gems, but then he got shut out of the Golden Globes. And he got shut out of I think he got shut out of the SAGs.
Well, there's a couple. There's a couple.
And now he's shut out of the Oscars. There was one more thing I wanted to say. There was another person who, and this really does ring true. Okay, I'm not woke. I'm not part of the Me Too movement or anything like that. I do feel bad for him. I do think one person really got unjustly snubbed today, and that was Greta Gerwig. Because I thought she was going to be a lock for like a Best Directing nomination for Little Women.
For Little Women for Best Picture here.
No, she got it for Best Picture though. But they gave it to fucking Todd Phillips for Joker. While it was a good movie, I don't think he deserved a fucking directing nomination.
There's a couple of things here that you did mention. You mentioned Joker. You mentioned The Irishman, of course. Once Upon a Time, Joker, Little Women.
I think they're great movies, but
Marriage Story. I got to see that one. I'll probably see that one on Sunday.
Yeah, like Noah Baumbach. I can't remember if he got nominated or he got shut out. But I personally think it sucks that Greta Gerwig got shut out because we need more female. It's a sad state of affairs when we're now in 2020 and we only have had one female director who ever took home the gold. Only one.
Yeah, Noah Baumbach did not get nominated.
Yeah, Noah Baumbach got shut out.
It was Martin Scorsese, Todd Phillips, Sam Mendes for 1917, Tarantino, and Bong Joon-ho for Parasite.
Todd Phillips is the only one I take out of that. He's the only one I take out of that because because Joker. It was because it was a good movie, but it could have been made by anybody.
It could have been, but maybe they gave him the nomination because they were surprised that he did it, Well,
I already told you why I like Joker. I said Joker was like my number 9 for the year strictly on Joaquin Phoenix's performance because I hate the guy, but he was so great in that movie, I had to love it. I mean, but as far as from a directing or screenwriting standpoint, I think Phillips should have gotten at least shut out of the directing. I mean, hey, if he got the nomination, cool, it's awesome, but I think Greta Gerwig should have gotten it. And I honestly think Adam Sandler should have fucking gotten an actor nomination. Because this is like, dude, let's just face it, you and I both know this. He will never make a movie like this again. Probably
not, but he may make similar, and I have my theories about this now because a lot of these people we know these names. Greta Gerwig already kind of got a lot of notice for Lady Bird anyway, right? Uncut Gems gets the cold shoulder because I think of two things. Number one, nobody knew who the Safdie brothers were. They kind of came out of nowhere with this. They didn't have the clout of a lot of people. I swear to God, I never heard of these people before I saw this movie. And then I looked them up, and they've got a few movies under their belt. Maybe this is the beginning of something really big for them in the future. Maybe if they keep making movies like this, they'll get some notice. And we've seen a lot of people get the cold shoulder.
I got a counterpoint to that. Damien Chazelle, you heard of him?
No.
He wrote and directed Whiplash. But then the other movie he did, La La Land, where he took home the directing Oscar.
Right.
Second film, youngest director in history ever to get it.
Right.
And the Safdies get shut out.
Now, I've heard good things about Ford versus Ferrari from people. I never heard of Jojo Rabbit. What the fuck is Jojo Rabbit?
Oh, dude, Jojo Rabbit. I want to see that. I really do. That was a sleeper at the Toronto International Film Festival.
I never even heard of this movie.
Oh, dude, it's from Taika Waititi. He's like an up and coming filmmaker, director. Everyone loves this guy. Mm-hmm. He did Thor Ragnarok, which was like the best Thor movie. He's working on a bunch of other projects. Jojo Rabbit was like his pet project, and it caused a little bit of divisiveness at TIFF, but then it started getting a lot of steam. And like now it's like being heralded as this wholly imaginative movie. I really want to see it too. It's just basically about a kid who's in like a Hitler Youth, and he has an imaginary friend who looks like Hitler.
Okay.
Played by Taika Waititi.
Well, you sold me. Your Knives Out gets original screenplay.
Which it deserved, by the way. Daniel Craig got shut out. That was to be expected, but at least Knives Out got something, and I'm glad it got a screenplay nomination. But it's not going to win.
With our Uncut Gems, there's just no mention of it here, which is unfortunate because this movie. I mean, like this was like the one movie that knocked me on my ass.
Remember how I said 2019 was a good year for movies?
Yeah.
This shows how good of a year it was because there were so many good movies that came out, but so many movies and so many people got shut out.
Yeah,
because the fields were so crowded this year. I mean, everything was crowded. That's why I said on my best stuff, 2019 was just such a good year that now with these Oscars coming out, it's causing debate. And then you have to chalk it up as, hey, this means a lot of great movies came out, and you have to pick your people that you're going to nominate. And it's not, it's selective, I mean, I personally think it sucks that Greta Gerwig got shut out, but it is what it is. But I honestly think Sandler and the Safdies should have gotten something.
Now,
they should have gotten some notice.
Strangely enough, Jonathan Pryce gets nominated for The Two Popes. He was brilliant in The Man Who Killed Don Quixote. Adam Driver was also incredible in that movie as well, but neither of them got nominated for that, but got nominated for other movies, which is so strange to me.
Like I said, man, 2019 was a fucked up year, but Uncut Gems was like the real big standout for me. Like, that was just this out of nowhere fucking movie that shows a side of Adam Sandler we've never seen before. I mean, I don't know if he's really stretching his acting chops in this movie. He's basically playing like an accentuated version of himself if he were a greedy bastard.
Well, it's like, okay, he's playing. I feel like he's playing a character that isn't youthful. That was one of Adam Sandler's hallmarks, was that he would always play like these youthful, energetic guys who's given to incredible mood swings and screaming. That's he does a lot of that in most, if not all, of his movies. Here he's playing a part that he didn't write, and it wasn't anything that he originated. These characters were created by the Safdie brothers with Ronald Bronstein, right? And they wrote this script, and I think the script was there, everything was there. You know, they put it out there, and they asked around who would want to be in the movie, and I think Adam Sandler saw the script, jumped at the chance to be in it, so he wanted to play that part, and he wanted to do something different. And here he plays a character named Howard Ratner. He runs a jewelry store in New York, and it's a kind of jewelry. I guess it's like a high-end jewelry store kind of a thing.
Yeah, it's one of those jewelry stores where you got to have like at least $500,000 to burn,
and you got to get buzzed in. You know, and it has like these double lock doors or something like that, which play prominently into the end of the film too. He finds like this. There's like this rock that has a black opal in it, which is like uncut. It's a complete perfect rock, and it's inside this thing, and he gets it delivered to him through a fish, apparently, because I guess maybe it's legal to ship diamonds that way. Even though the whole thing about diamonds, we know this horrible secret about diamonds is that they're basically discovered by slaves, and it's kind of like it's a blood market. You know, they talk about blood diamonds a lot, and you know they kill people, they kill children to get these diamonds. It's bad. But apparently it's operated by Ethiopian Jews. Maybe that's how he's able to sleep with himself at night, because he plays a Jewish person in this also. Has Adam Sandler ever played a character that wasn't Jewish?
Yeah, that one I don't know.
He always seems to play a Jewish guy or an Israeli, you know.
Did what? You don't like the Fizzy Bubble?
He wants to. So he can auction these diamonds, and he thinks he can get like $1 million. And he shows it to. And this is the whole beginning of this thing. And you're shaking your head. You're like watching him as he's dealing with Kevin Garnett and everything. And I said to myself, watching the movie, I said, he's never going to see that thing again. I mean, I was kind of shocked that he actually got it back, because Kevin Garnett, I don't know, for some reason, the basketball player who's in this movie playing himself, but it takes place a few years back. Like takes place about 7 years before. And he's like looking into this rock, and he sees the beginning of time or his own existence, or he looks into this thing and sees his soul. He's like, I got to have this rock. And he wants to keep it overnight or something. And, you know, he just wants, Sandler plays like this little man, and he just wants this one thing, and it's going to make him rich, it's going to make him famous, and he just wants it. And this Kevin Garnett,
well, it's that he's going to take care of his debts and all this other stuff.
Yeah,
that's what he was thinking. He was going to get rid of his debts.
He owes a shitload of money to these prick debt collectors, and they are terrible people too, because like the real bad guy just like smacks him across his face at the beginning of the movie. And apparently, you know, it's a little hard to figure out, because Eric Bogosian plays his brother-in-law, and he's in with these loan sharks. It's like, you know, you are shaking your head, because he makes so many terrible decisions in this movie. I
mean that, and he's got his own mistress.
He's got a mistress. He's got a wife. He's got children.
Puts this mistress up in a fucking penthouse apartment.
Yeah,
and all this other shit. You know, it's like. You know, it's such a moral debate with this movie. It's like, you want this guy to succeed, but at the same time, you won't be upset if he fails.
Right.
I was disappointed. Makes you question your own morals.
Well, it kind of, you know, and also the way it's done, it kind of puts you into a weird trance watching it. Maybe that's why my friend Andrew really couldn't, you know, handle watching the movie for an extended period of time, because he felt like he was getting sucked into it. Because I was getting sucked into it. I had to turn it off for a little while to go be with my family and then get back to it later. But the big problem with this is that because he makes these terrible decisions, you think that the movie is going to be about nothing but this string of terrible decisions that he makes throughout it. And it turns out, like at the end, and it's so heartbreaking. That he winds up being right once, but it comes at a very wrong time.
Well,
and I don't want to spoil the ending.
He was actually right twice. Remember, he made a big bet at the beginning, but they pulled his bet.
Yes, that's true.
He did. He was right on one bet. He
tried to make a bet, and he could have stood to make money.
Well, that would have wiped out his debt. He even said that bet that he made, that first bet that got pulled, he would have been able to wipe his debts clean with that because he would have made stacks.
Yes.
But then you find out his brother-in-law pulled his fucking bet because it's like, hey, this is money you owe me. You don't need to be gambling with other people's fucking money.
Right. Yes.
So
mistakes were made on.
He's right. It's like when you're only right 50% of the time, you don't need to gamble.
But also, when you're only right in that percentage, no one's ever going to believe you. No one's ever going to have any faith in you actually making the right decision and winning based on your, I don't know, instinct. Like the big bet of the movie is the playoffs between the Sixers and the Celtics, right?
Right. And then he basically, since he gives the gem back to KG, he freaking makes this ridiculously stupid bet saying that this is going to happen, and he was 100% right.
He was absolutely.
It all freaking happened.
Right,
like, I mean, he made a bet on the damn tip-off.
And
on the opening tip.
You're watching this, and you're on the edge of your seat with every little victory that he manages to have. But then you also realize he's this guy is a worm. He's like an incredible worm, and he should not win. He's terrible. He should not win. He should not profit from this, from what he did. But then when ultimately what happens at the end, you feel terrible about the whole thing.
You do, and it's sad because you know he's leaving behind a family. It's like that's why you feel so bad for guys. That's one of the reasons you feel bad for him, because even though he's philanderous, even though he's an adulterer, he still has a hot wife and 2 kids.
Yeah, and a hot mistress who completes the bet
and a hot
for him.
mistress on top of that too. I mean, you take the mistress out of the equation. The poor guy was married with fucking 2 kids. Not even. Let's take the wife out of the equation. The guy had kids, for Christ's sake.
Yeah. I said it to you. It's a very cheesy thing that I said, but I said he didn't realize that the uncut gems in his life were his family.
Or could it be her massive stripper titties?
Exactly. And that was like a great metaphor. It's like you literally, like when you said that, I'm like, holy shit, he's right. That's what this movie's really about.
This movie is about family. It's not about gems. So, we recommend wholeheartedly this movie. And
it was just one of those movies you can't help but talk about, because it was almost like both of our favorite movies. It was so close. It's like it was your favorite movie of 2019, but it was like my second favorite movie.
Yeah, for me,
I'm a Tarantino whore, and I don't care. I admit it freely. So
it edges out Once Upon a Time in America. Or Hollywood. I keep making this mistake. I keep calling it Once Upon a Time in America.
It sounds like someone's got a Sergio Leone fetish, okay?
Sergio Leone, and I have that on Blu-ray. I picked it up at Best Buy for like $5. It does edge out that movie just for creating this character. The character. It's this is like a monster movie, and Howard Ratner is the monster in this movie. It's like a very weird thing in that way.
Yeah, it's very weird, but. It's just, again, this movie is so full of moral, like it questions your own moral conflict. Like you don't know who you want to root for. You don't know if you want him to fail or succeed. That's where I think the movie itself succeeds, is because it makes you question your own morals.
Well, yeah, there's also that fact that, again, so many layers in it, right? Layers like a gem. But he never learns. You want a character to learn, and he never learns. And even at the end, he didn't learn. He had a big smile on his face. Isn't that weird? I mean, he had a big smile. I'm not going to reveal the ending, but he had a big smile on his face.
No, again, you don't want to give it away, but it's like, I can't say it. I was going to make another point, but I can't say it without giving too much away. I can't, even though we've given a lot away, but I can't give that away. But anybody who hasn't seen it, go to the theater, check it out, see it on the big screen. Don't sit on it at the house, man. Just watch it on the big screen.
All right, yeah. Thanks for tuning in, and I'm going to remember it this time. Like, share, and subscribe to this podcast if you like anything of what you heard, and we'll be very grateful. We'll come to your house, and we'll give you handy J's, okay?
No, we call them old fashions around these parts.
Old fashions in the Midwest, you call them old fashions.
We call them old fashions in the Midwest.
I call it the Great American Reach Around. All right. Good night.
Night.